Hello, everybody. It's good to be with you. So, we're going to be talking today about something we've talked about before, but here we're going to really focus on it. I'm going to go into it in detail, and I'm going to try to help unwrap the foremost mystery in non duality for you. So, let me address one thing first, which is this hat. I'm going to be seeing me in these hats because this light that I have, which is perfect for giving the right light on YouTube. And I've been using it for 5 years and I love it. The only thing is, it's gotten to where it bothers my eyes. It hurts my eyes. So it kind of might keep me from squinting quite so much. And I'll be using these hats most of the time. I'll be using them every time except at the times when I don't. So, what I want to talk about is I want to talk about space, and we'll get to why. But first, let's look at space. So, this is space, isn't it? No. This is air. This is atmosphere. It's spacious, and we say that this is space, but it's not exactly the same content as outer space, because while this air has no obvious attributes, it nonetheless, I mean, it's what H2O, so it's got two hydrogen atoms to every oxygen atom, and God knows the complexity of all that. So I won't go there. But when we look at outer space, which means the space above the atmosphere, the most common thing in the universe is this space. It's everywhere. And we tend to think of it as being attributeless as well. So I just, and actually I just went and checked that about were there attributes to space, because we typically think, no, it's empty. And it's without attribute. But I looked it up, and this is from like a NASA website or something. I mean, it's terribly scientific and complex. And I just stole this quote from it. The physical properties of space are rich in paradoxes. So let's just notice that word paradoxes real strong, because that's what non-duality is just chock full of. So the physical properties of space are rich in paradoxes. Space seems empty, but contains valuable resources of energy and matter and dangerous fluxes of radiation. Space seems featureless, but has hills and valleys of gravitation. Space is harsh and lifeless, but offers opportunities for life beyond those of Earth. In space, travel is sometimes easier between places far apart than between places close together. Whoo! That last one. I mean, that really just turns everything upside down, doesn't it? In space, travel is sometimes easier between places far apart than between places close together. So what we're talking about is that in some sort of paradox is that in space, distance doesn't mean the same thing as it does to you and me, and that this thing is now 4 inches from my finger or whatever. And this is a foot from my finger. It just doesn't mean that same thing, because you can travel long distances sometimes more quickly than you can short. So it just means simply that distances are not this hard element that we think it is down here, that it's 3,000 miles to Paris from my house, right? I mean, that's a rough guess, but it's pretty close. It's about 3,000 miles from my house to Paris. And it would take several hours to get there. And we can't really compress that space to get there sooner. But what we can do is we can get a faster airplane, and it doesn't compress the space, it compresses time. And we get there faster because we're moving faster. So in essence, it compresses the time that it takes us to get from my house to Paris. Okay. So space and time are very tightly interwoven. And that might be because they're the first things to appear within this so-called hard universe of ours. I don't find anything hard about it. I don't find anything certain about it. I don't find anything that I cannot confidently tell you, this is how this works, this is how that works. I can tell you how this appears to work. I can tell you how this seems to work for me, from this point of view. But these hard things, just get away from them. These hard positions, anytime you pull you've got a hard position on something, you're dreaming. Because you can say that it works like this, but if you do, you better say it works like this and it works like this, because there's perfect balance within relativity. Okay, relativity is perfect balance. It is a perfect balance of this. Everything moving, everything changing. Matter becomes what happens? Dust to dust. Matter becomes space. Space becomes matter. Matter becomes space. Space becomes matter. Matter becomes space. So when we look at space, if it doesn't work the same way out of the atmosphere that it works in the atmosphere, then we got to ask, is that a paradox? Does it work the same here as it does there? In other words, is it just as easy to operate, to travel long distances here as it is short distances, or short distances might even be more difficult if it works like it does outside of the atmosphere? So let's just leave everything up in the air. Let's not know anything. That's a perfect place for us to start, is not to know anything. I don't know anything, so I've got nothing I can share with you as a unit, but I can tell you that stuff comes through here that seems to be worth sharing. I get emails every day of people telling me, thanks for sharing, right? It's basically what they're saying. And the only thing I can share is what comes through. This is not about the donut, it's about the whole. Yeah, that's the truth. So, the most misunderstood thing that there is in non-duality is what realizes. What awakens, if you want to call it that. Realizes is that you'll see is actually a much better term. Well, what realizes, what awakens, so to speak. See, when I say realizes, then I have to say, so to speak. What realizes, or what awakens, so to speak. So this realizing, this is the real thing. Awakening and everything that we talk about with awakening, it's not actually quite as true. It's just not quite true, and you'll see why. So you have probably often heard that, well, you certainly have often heard, if you watched me before, you've heard it ad nauseum, which is that the body is not you. So the body is not you. You can also say it, you are not the body. I just prefer the other way around, because when I say I am not the body, I tend to go, I am not the body. So I'm referring to the body at the same time that I'm refuting it. Whereas if I say the body is not you, I'm not having to refute anything. So when awakening takes place, when realization happens, what does it happen to? You've heard that you are not the body. Well, then what's that leave? If you really are, just go with me for a minute. What if the thing that thinks, oh, he doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. I'm a flesh and blood unit. I know I am. I know I am. I've heard I'm not, but I know that I am. Well, just try not to know all this stuff so hard, because it's not true. I can tell you it's not true. I can promise you it's not true. I can tell you from personal, so to speak, experience that it absolutely is not true, and it's the thing that throws everybody. You may think you're having a hard time with your seeking, but everybody has a hard time with their seeking, except for the very, very few that don't. And I don't run into them too often, to be honest with you. I run into people most of the time where realization has occurred, but the one whom a realization has occurred to, it actually gets mixed up. It just gets mixed up. So, and we get it wrong. So if I am not this body, let's go to me. Let's not talk about you. Let's talk about this, because we're the same thing anyway, but we'll talk about this body. So if this body is not a Fred Davis, then what is it? Well, if we weighed it, what would we come up with? We would come up with right now, thank God, a little under 170 pounds. Then let's weigh the body, and the body weighs 169 pounds, let's just say. Now let's weigh the body and call it Fred and see how much it weighs. Well, how about that? It still weighs 169 pounds. Now let's stop calling it Fred, and we can call it anything we want, or we can call it nothing. But let's stop calling it Fred and see what it weighs without the Fred. It weighs 169 pounds. So it's the unit that weighs 169 pounds. Fred doesn't weigh anything, because there's no Fred. There's just no Fred. There's no teacher here. The living method is not my teaching. You know, for the sake of marketing and stuff, that happens. You know, they'll say, well, this is my teaching or whatever, but it's not true. And I never think it's true. I never actually take credit if we get right down to it, because it's not my teaching. It's yours. It's your teaching. The living method is your teaching. It's the method that you have left yourself like a hand grenade, or better to say an alarm clock in the dream, so that you can wake up within this dream, and within the realm of time, space and time, you can wake up very quickly. The units don't have to anymore. I'm not saying they didn't, because these units do what they do, and they have to do what they have to do. But I can tell you that these units do not need to go and sit on a mountain for 30 years anymore. I'm not saying it never was. I'm just saying it isn't. We don't have to go sit in a cave. We don't have to give away our things. We don't have to, it wouldn't do us any good if we did. It might even be a negative thing for us to give our things away, because then we'd certainly start thinking about, wow, what a spiritual thing I am. I've given all my stuff away. I've quit smoking, drinking, screwing, everything else that might have any fun attached to it. And I'm still stuck. I had somebody a week ago, or 10 days ago, I had a conversation with a client and with a student, or whatever she calls herself. And you're a client or a student or a follower or whatever it is you want to call yourself. I don't care. I don't really call you anything except for a bunch of friends, but I got to refer to the friends that come for this teaching as something than just other than just friends. So this student likes and really loves the name that she received years ago, and I think decades ago, in a Hindu teaching. Hindus typically very often will change the name. Well, sometimes the Buddhists will do that too. They change the name of the unit. Now, the purpose of changing the name of the unit is so it creates sort of a vacuum where ego is more likely to die. But in truth, that's not what happens. It might happen sometime, but I've never seen it. In truth, what happens is that a spiritual ego now develops, and it's built around this new name. Like whatever it is. I am Katya, whatever the hell, you know. Now I used to be Fred, but now I'm Katya. Oh my God, I've given up all this stuff. I've even given up my name. I am so holy, and I am making so much progress, because I used to have a lot of ego about who I was and what I had and all of that stuff. But I don't have any ego in that anymore, because I'm not that person and I don't have any stuff. But I got this name, and it is magnificent, because it makes me feel so spiritual. And although I haven't woken up yet, it does make me feel like I'm on the road to waking up. And I would assume that the road to waking up is fairly short, like 30, 40 years. I don't believe in this several lifetime stuff. Who knows? It might even could happen in 10 or 20 if I really applied myself. And what I'm telling you is that none of that is true. These units do not have to practice for years and years unless in any kind of sitting, any kind of mantras, any kind of inquiry, unless they do. But we don't have to do all these things to wake up, but we can do any of these things in post-awakening in order to clear up what's there. I get letters and have sessions with units, not uncommonly around the world, who have woken up spontaneously, no teacher around. They weren't even reading a non-dual book. I was reading a non-dual book, but there's no teacher. So was it spontaneous? Well, maybe, but I think Ramesh Balsekar had something to do with it, given his wording in the book about Nisargadatta. So I can't really say that I woke up on my own, whatever that means. But these things, people that wake up spontaneously, there is awakeness there, and they get something, but I'm not sure what. There's no clarity. There's not much. There's and what clarity there is, there may be a lot of clarity there at the beginning, at the start of that thing, but it will absolutely go to pot. I mean, there will be less and less clarity the longer that this person is still identifying as someone who woke up, because someone does not wake up, someone has never woken up, and someone will never wake up. Anyone will never wake up. There's no someone here. There's no anyone here. There's no Fred here. This is a corpse, right? And the older it gets, the more and more it looks like a corpse. But that doesn't mean that it's a dead corpse. It's not a dead corpse. It is a dead corpse because it's a dead unit. A corpse is a dead thing. So it's a dead unit. If you remove the animating presence, which is the aliveness here, that's what makes this thing be able to talk. It's that by which talking can occur, that by which the listening can occur. So if you're not a Bob or a Sue, and there's no Fred here, what in the world are we? Huh? What is going on here? Well, I don't know what's going on here. I really don't. And that's beautiful. I hope you can reach the same space of lostness. And I know it's frightening because I can remember when I went through it myself, where I was like, I really, really wanted to wake up, but God almighty, what'll happen then? I mean, what will happen to Fred once Fred wakes up? What will happen to Fred once Fred wakes up? Because Fred's going to wake up and find out there's no Fred, and I'm just going to be what, a spark or something, or not even a raindrop, or am I going to come back as a cat? What's happening? And what I want to tell you is that given that there is no Fred, we don't need to worry about a Fred's future path of reincarnation, because one's not incarnated here to begin with. This body is incarnated, but it's not incarnated by a Fred. It's incarnated by what? It's incarnated by the living, awake space that encompasses it, and infuses it. Space is not nothing. We just saw that. But for our practical purposes, it is nothing. But let's just look at something. Space is harsh and lifeless, but offers opportunities for life beyond those of Earth. So space is empty, is representative of emptiness, but it's not empty. It's not without attribute. It's just not without notice. It's not without, it doesn't have noticeable attribute unless you've got the right scientific instruments. Then you can find all sorts of attributes. But what we want to notice is, most importantly here, is the space is nothing unto itself. Remember when I talked about that which is prior to consciousness? And what is that which is prior to consciousness? It's the great potentiality, which is nothing unto itself, but it is the potential, it carries the potential for all of this. This all can't exist unless there's that which is prior to this. But prior to this, there seems to be nothing. And I have heard spiritual teachers tell me, and this and that and the other, that nothing can arise from nothing. Well, the only reason that doesn't seem to seems to work is if you think that this is something, and it's not. This is nothing with an appearance of something. These are appearances. This is an appearance. It's an arising. Arisings come, they go. They come, they go. We live, we die. Flowers come out of the ground, they lean toward the sun, they love that attention, and then they die, right? Dust to dust, ashes to ashes, dust to dust. Are you getting this? And if you are getting this, what is getting this if that body is not you? What you've always identified with, the body, the character, the story. What if none of that's true? Then what's left? I mean, you don't need to rely on what Fred says. Teachers for thousands of years have been saying that the body is not you. So you think all these teachers got together and decided to tell the same lie? I don't think so. These teachers have been discovering the same truth over and over again throughout history. And I don't think there were that many to begin with, because there weren't that many people to start out with. But as people have multiplied, I think so has the awakening process begun to be more numerous. Of course, it wouldn't make sense that there would be more awakened beings arise out of apparent beings, these apparently awakened beings. The sense of being is not about the being, it's about a sense of being. What is it that has the sense of being? I can't find that. You know what I find? I find nothing, but nothing can come from nothing. But this is nothing. So nothing arises from nothing, and that's exactly true. These are appearances. Now, how much does the appearance weigh? How much did Fred weigh? How much did the Fred weighed? Nothing. The body weighed what it did. How tall is the Fred? It doesn't have any height. No height, no weight. What about the circumference? No, there's no, because there's no Fred at all. It's not measurable. Or what are the attributes of a Fred? There are none. There are attributes to these patterns which you have come to call Fred, but you've only come to call him Fred because I've told you to. This unit has trained you to call it Fred. Because this unit has, really, it's not this unit because the unit is empty. But the awakeness that's coming through this unit, that's inhabiting this unit, typically it's inhabiting but not coming through. And in the case of here, it's inhabiting and coming through. And on some level, anybody that's watching this, it's inhabiting and coming through, or else you wouldn't be seeing this. These things just don't end up. And so like I was thinking about, I was going to read the paper on the bus, but I decided to get my iPhone and look up non-duality instead. And I wanted to go see Fred Davis's videos because, nobody ever heard of me outside of these circles. I got micro fame. It's true. It's good for the ego to recognize that it's micro fame. And then what's famous? Nothing. Nothing when it appears like a Fred is famous. Or, micro famous, famous within a small circle, It's not really a big fish in a big pond. It's really more like a small fish in a small pond. That's what I am, a small fish in a small pond. But still, it is a small pond. But that doesn't mean that the numbers, it just means the percentages of those who become seekers, that may be small. And the seekers and the percentage of those seekers that will awaken, that's infinitesimal. But does it have to be? I don't think so. I really don't. The way things have gotten over here, I think I could wake up a room full of people. I really do. I might wake up most of them. I don't think I don't know. I might wake up all of them. But I say I might wake up. What am I talking about? There's no I, there's no Fred. So it's awakeness, understanding what it is and making that statement through the Fred unit. Don't confuse the pipeline with the content of the pipeline. Don't confuse the hole with the donut. Don't think that space is nothing. It just appears as nothing. It appears like it's empty, but it's the fullest emptiness there ever was because it holds the entire capacity for all of this. So what wakes up? What is it that awakens? What is it that realizes? Is what's left here in the absence of a Fred. The space doesn't come and get, within some realm it does, but outer space doesn't come and go as far as we know. It did come according to some Big Bang, but we don't know anything about it going. We can imagine that the universe might die, but it's certainly beyond these little brains of ours to figure all that out. So for all practical purposes, for as much as the human being can know, these units come and go, but that which the units come and go within doesn't come and go. Consciousness comes and goes, but space doesn't come and go. The spaciousness. The space is always here. And what is the space? It's always the potentiality for this, and it can be this, and this can't be in the absence of it. Can't exist. But the space can exist absent of content. God, it seems like I'm making this so clear. I don't know if it's working or not, but damn, I'm getting clear. And that's the deal. Is it works for you? It works for me. This has been my teacher for years. I listen to it on YouTube. I swear to God, I do, because it's the clearest thing I can find out. It's short and sweet. It's not fancy. It's not complicated. And it's a punch in the face is what it is. A punch in the jaw. Right? Like, wake up, boom. Whereas everybody else is going, come on, please, come on. I'm going to coach you in. I'm going to coach you in. And I'm not going to try to coach you in. But if you showed up in front of me, I'm going to give you a smack in the jaw. If you give me money. If you don't give me money, I won't. And that sounds very, very selfish. But the truth is, if you don't have buy-in, if you don't have skin in the game, then what is inhabiting the unit will simply not reach far enough. The animating presence of the unit will not reach far enough to come to recognize its own true nature. Typically, it doesn't mean that's the case always. It can be the case for others, but in this teaching, I'm not in the East, I'm not supported. So in this teaching, that's the way it works. Get some skin in the game. But right now, all of this is free, and you've given you everything you need to wake up right here in this free video. Just notice that all of these videos are free. All of them are free. Everything on I've got other videos that were not free, and are not free, but I have almost 300 free videos on YouTube trying to wake you up. Avail yourself of them, and avail yourself, for God's sake, of this one. But go start Googling Fred Davis Cosmos, Fred Davis Awakeness, Fred Davis Spaciousness, whatever, and it'll link to things on the website or to YouTube titles. It'll link you to an article or a YouTube that probably is going to be very useful to you. And now I got to go. I love you, but I just can't stay any longer. How do I know? Because the hand is moving to end this. I love you.